Hey, Composing Gloves here, and today we are talking about intervals. Now, it requires that you have learned the piano keyboard and you have learned the note names. If you haven't learned them, you're just going to be confused on multiple clefs, but it isn't necessary for this lesson, but it would be preferred that you now have all of that memorized. It's expected. So, okay, we know what an interval is. We know about harmonic and melodic. Now we need to gain a vocabulary of intervals that we can manipulate. We're going to cover the basic ones from our starting note all the way up to an octave. Now, because an interval, it should be noted, I guess, that an interval is relative to where you start. So it doesn't matter where you start, these interval relationships will always be the same. I'm going to use the piano principally for this, and I guess we'll draw them out as we go as well. So I'm going to start on C. So I'm also going to have to be cautious of that note input value thing. So here's a C. Now, if we move up one step, this is called a half step. That's all there is to it. So it's a half step. So from C to C sharp is a half step. Now, it doesn't matter if it's melodic or not melodic intervals. It's always going to be a half step. So we put down C and we make it sharp. C. Is he going to let me do a C sharp? And we make it sharp. You'll never see this in written music. Let me make these just melodic intervals. It'll just be easier. So here's a C, and this one's sharp. So this is C to C sharp. That is it's also called a minor second. So here we have C to C sharp. It's a minor second because we go 1, 2. So there's a 2, and it's a minor second. You're just going to have to take minor and major. There are sound design reasons why people theorize that we as humans do this, but I don't know the official historical reason why, because I don't think they knew that kind of jazz back then. Maybe they did. I don't know. Some of the times you'd be surprised what they knew. So, okay, so we have C to C sharp, a minor second. C to C sharp. If we go up one note to a D, this is a major second, because look at this. C, minor second, major second. We go up 1, 2, 3. So 3 half steps. So a half step, half step, half step. A half step is just moving up a key. And so we get major second. So here's our major second. C to D. Surprise. Okay, so major second. Then we go up one more step. This is a minor. Let me do this. This is a minor third. This should, to me, this needs to be an E flat. Okay, so this is a minor third. So you go up 1. Now, counting them, learning the intervals like this are great, but as you just saw, technically a D sharp is an augmented second, but we haven't gotten to that yet. In the key of C, this would still be a second because we went up 1, 2. So it's still only gone up 2, and it's a sharp. So it's an augmented second. We're starting to get in that weird stuff, but that's something we're not going to worry about right now. But I want you to know, you people out there who have learned to count intervals like using just the piano, you're going to get really confused when you count them on the staff, because these are things that just will trip you up. So, okay. So we have a major second and then an augmented second, which we haven't talked about yet. So we're just going to ignore it. We're going to stick with major and minor. So this would be a minor third. So it's a third because you're playing the third note in the key of C, which is another, man, I'm just digging a hole. Let's just do this. I'm just going to tell you the names of the intervals and not explain a ton about them. Just, they're things you need to memorize. But we have C to C sharp. It's a minor second, major second, minor third, major third, perfect fourth, tritone. This is called tritone. Perfect fifth, minor sixth, major sixth, minor seventh, major seventh, octave, or perfect eighth. Now, you're going to notice that we have this minor and major. We have this perfect, and then we have this thing called the tritone, which is, most people, well, I was taught, it's the ugliest interval you can have. Playing a tritone is like the most dissonant. It gets into the whole tuning thing, though. And so, today it's considered the most dissonant available in the in our tuning, in our what is it? Even tempered, well tempered. No, what is it? Equal tempered tuning. So a tritone is the worst. Now, okay, now let's cover this a little bit slower. So those are the ones you need to memorize. And their names are derived from the scale that you're working in. So if you were to learn this separately, like most people do at first, it's a little confusing because when you, as I just showed you, if we were to count this, so one way to count an interval is you were to go like, let's say that this is our interval. Well, you count so you start on 1. So 1, with the note we're starting on, then we have a space, a line, a space, a line, a space. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this is a 6th interval. And so we have, if we were to count this up here, it's going to be a major 6 because we're in the key of C major, but it's a major 6. And now if we were to count it out up here, we have minor 2nd, major 2nd, minor 3rd, major 3rd, perfect 4th, tritone, perfect 5th, minor 6th, major 6th. So hey, look at that. It's a 6th and it's a major 6th. Now we get to these things. So we have minor 2nd, major 2nd. Why is this a major 2nd? Why is this a minor 2nd? It's because we picked a key. We've picked a tonal center to move around. And we haven't talked about this a lot. Because you have to know this stuff. It's like they come together at the same time, kind of. It's difficult to sort of understand one without the other. So people all the time will start with intervals, and music's tough as a subject because of that. There's this, you have to sort of memorize all of this at the same time. So we have C, and so we have our major 2nd because it's in a C major scale, minor 3rd, major 3rd because it's in the C major scale. Then we get this thing perfect 4th and perfect 5th. These perfect intervals come from partly from the tuning that happened. And the church at the time said these are the intervals that are appropriate to stop on. They're like not demonic, and there's like a whole bunch of history about this kind of jazz. So it's for those reasons. Now there's something you need to know right off the bat about major and minor versus perfect intervals. Major, so if you'll notice here, we have a major 3rd and you can make it a minor 3rd. But then we have these perfects. What are these perfects? Can you make them major or minor? The answer is no, not freaking ever can you make them perfect or minor. So don't ever do that. They will always become augmented, which is the same thing as a sharp, or diminished. So just so you know, perfect intervals can only become augmented or diminished. They don't ever become major or minor. So this means that if we had an E here, let's say that we've got a perfect 4th, so C to F. So we have C, D, E, F, F. So if we were to count this out, we have 1, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's a perfect 4th because it's 4 this away. And it's in our scale, which we'll get to in a couple videos. So what if it was like a flat 4 or a double flat 4? Well, now let's go with just flat. I'm not even going to bother with double flat or double sharp. You'll see those things so rarely anyways. But we have a flat 4. This is now a diminished 4th because it's still 4 away. It's still 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So it still has to be a 4th. It has to be a 4th of some kind. And so therefore it's been lowered a half step. We have diminished it. If we raise it a half step, we have augmented it. That's augment and diminish. That's what that is. I believe I had a separate video for this, but I'm just going to do it in this video because it's not that complicated. Augmented or diminished, only perfect. And so perfect intervals are the ones the church said are good. They're good for your soul. These major and minor, that's part of the reason I believe is why they're done that way. But anyways, this is something you just have to memorize. Memorize this jazz. This is going to be super important to building chords. So one more time. This is unison. So 0, it's called unison. So we move up a half step or a minor 2nd, major 2nd, minor 3rd, major 3rd, perfect 4th, tritone. Tritone is just weird jazz. You just got to remember it's right after the perfect 4th. Tritone, perfect 5th. Then we have our minor 6th, major 6th, minor 7th, major 7th, octave. Octave, it repeats again. So, or a perfect 8th. Some people will call it perfect 8th. It's the same thing. It's just we call it octave because it's this, now our notes, it's just been doubled. Then we have minor second, minor, and it keeps going. So it just repeats and repeats and repeats. However, sometimes when your bass note's here, this note will get a different name, and this note will get a different name. They'll have new names, and they could theoretically extend forever, but the usefulness of them only goes so far, so we only go so far. That's a topic for another video. But anyways, you need to memorize these if you really want to understand what's going on later on. So learn your intervals. They become the building blocks. They are the language to music theory. If you have any questions, let me know. Subscribe and have a blessed day.